former Air Force 56 Fighter Wing. I've said this many times before that Donald Trump represents a major national security risk, no doubt. That being said, I heard one of the most ridiculous comments from that red-faced guy from the PBD podcast who always gets on Piers Morgan and starts screaming and yelling and just turning red. He was sort of scoffing at, I believe, a progressive guest that was, actually, it was a conservative guest, ironically, who was talking about that Tulsi Gabbard might actually be a Russian asset. And he just laughed and mocked this assertion. And the basis of him mocking this was the statement that she is in the military. I'm going to let you know how ridiculous that is. I have all the respect for my brothers and sisters, regardless of what branch you're in, Army, Marines, Air Force, Navy. But the reality is, the truth of the matter is, there are a lot of very bad people that get attracted to the military for many reasons. I remember when I was in basic training, I saw some of these people. There are some people there that were definitely suffering from some form of mental issue. Now, fortunately, basic training has been effective enough to weed out a lot of these people who don't make it through basic training. But sadly, they don't get all of them. I would not try to guess the percentage that slips through. But let me tell you this, there's some very sick individuals who make it through basic training every day. And I'm pretty sure that the percentages differ based on the branch. So I only know Air Force. I'm going to guess that some of the other branches might let more of these types of people in. And it's not a swipe on the other branches. It's just a matter of, each branch has a different mission, a different focus. So based on that fact, it's just naturally going to lead to differences in terms of the selection and who passes through the basic training. And unfortunately, some of the other branches are going to lead some really sick individuals through and have, right? Do your own research and you'll see some of the very sick, disgusting things that unfortunately some of my brothers have done. It's not unlike in our nation's law enforcement departments where you have some very sick individuals who make it through and are police officers and they really embarrass others in law enforcement. Unfortunately, don't have enough officers that have the integrity to speak out against it. It's not just integrity, though, because they will get attacked. But the reality is some very sick individuals in the military. That is no doubt. I remember one of the most disgusting things that I saw, and I'm not saying this is the most disgusting by far, but I remember a situation not that long ago with a U.S. military helicopter firing on civilians that were trying to retrieve their dead. This is only one of the many things that have happened in the military. But that's one side of it. Unfortunately, it gets worse. Obviously, what also gets through are people who are susceptible to being captured by our enemies. We have absolutely had members of the military who've successfully been recruited by our military. In fact, all across our government, there have been incidents of spies. There have been people in our government who have sold secrets and been caught, and I assure you some have not been caught. So it's absurd and ridiculous of an argument to make that you think it's ridiculous to suggest that Tulsi Gabbard might be a Russian asset because she served and she's in the military. That is to suggest that the military is perfect. That is to suggest the history of traitors in our military never happened. It's not a thing, right? I appreciate the respect that those in the military and those who were in the military, the respect that, we get from the public, the typical refrain of, thank you for your service. But the reality is we in the military are just people, just like in the police forces across the country. We are human, right? That means we're susceptible to the same evils of every other part of society, right? There are some of us who are traitors. There's some of us who are just very bad people. There's some of us who are suffering from various forms of mental illness, just like every other part of the government. So if someone suggests that someone in the military might be a Russian asset, the proper and appropriate response is to speak specifically to their character and what they've done beyond simply being in the service or serving. I'm not saying you shouldn't get any credit for serving. That certainly has some level of weight, obviously, but that alone doesn't hold enough weight to completely shut down an accusation of someone being a Russian asset. So for example, in this case of Tulsi Gabbard, the appropriate response is to address the specific accusations being made beyond the top level. She might be a Russian asset, right? Which this guy did not do. I wonder why. People have talked about things that she has said, things that she's actually done. Anyone that wants to have an honest conversation about whether she is or is not a Russian asset should address those claims. But to simply laugh and just say, she's in the military, she served, that suggests someone who's very unserious, somebody who doesn't care about the country, right? Because this is a serious matter. Putting someone who might be a Russian asset at this high level in our government is a very serious matter. It puts our troops at risk. It puts our country at risk. It's a major national security risk. So any patriot would take this conversation very seriously. Therefore, would not be just laughing and saying, oh, he's in the military. Like, that's a childish response. They would immediately focus on the claims being made about statements she's made and things that she's done and come up with some kind of rebuttal to the actual evidence rather than just ignoring the evidence and just saying, she's in the military. right? Let me make this absolutely clear. I have identified Donald Trump as active and severe national security threat. I mean, the guy literally had top secret documents in his bathroom, and then he tried to obstruct justice to cover it up. There's very solid evidence that he might have disclosed some of this top secret information to people who should not have that information. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that everyone in the military, in basic training, we're trained about how to handle sensitive information, the different levels of clearance, right? And most of us would never get anywhere near top secret. And for the lower levels of clearances that we get, we are taught to really respect and treat these things very seriously. I'll just give you a little bit of a snapshot. Let's say that, I was working on top secret, a new tank, right? Top secret tank, some kind of stealth tank or something, right? If my family members ask me about what my job is, I should have a cover story that does not even give them an indication that I work on any tank. So, for example, I wouldn't say I work on tanks or I work on and mention a tank that's not top secret, right? I don't want to even let them know that I'm anywhere close to tanks at all, right? I don't want to be putting online what base I'm stationed at. And the reason that we are taught to not talk around secrets, right? So it's like, I'm not telling you the secret, but I'm talking around it. I'm talking about things that are on the perimeter of it. So for example, I'm working on a top secret tank, but I don't tell you about the top secret tank. I just tell you I work on tanks. Tank is on the perimeter of top secret tank, right? It's a gateway to top secret tank. Here's the problem. Our enemies and spies of other countries are able to figure things out based on context, right? So they can look on my social media, look at my interests, look at what school I went to, look at, maybe what degrees I had or something like that. Look at my location. So I don't mention the base, but I mention the location, right? And it can cross-reference, things that I'm good at or have skills with, and then the types of bases that are there and what those bases, like what kind of things are done there. So they can, through a process of deduction, actually figure out that I'm working on a top secret tank, even though I never said that. Just by me getting them in the vicinity by saying I work on tanks and then also disclosing my location and things like that, right? And this is stuff that is really taught to us to take very seriously, where they let us know the risks. The idea that the President of the United States would just sloppily be handling our top secret documents, which puts the country at risk and our troops at risk, is just so disheartening. The idea that this national security risk will be put back in office, again, disheartening. Think about all the members of the military who have died to protect this country. Think about how this is such an insult to all of our fallen soldiers. And then the idea that he would be putting together essentially a DEI administration supported by the people who keep talking about DEI, bringing in people far less qualified than the people that they would replace with no opposition. Charlie Kirk is not going to be making a video about Trump and his DEI hires, because the truth of the reality is this is, in fact, without a doubt, a fascist movement. That's not hyperbole. This is how fascism works. You have an ultimate leader who cannot be questioned by anyone. He's literally talking about circumventing the entire Congress. He wants them to go into recess so he can put in whoever he wants to put in people, bypassing FBI investigations. This is exactly what a fascist would do, right? To turn this country towards fascism requires circumventing all of the checks and balances, and it involves getting to a point of ultimate power. You control the media. I mean, you literally have a billionaire who owns Twitter, a major media platform, going to be in the government. So all this stuff about Twitter and Jack Dorsey, whatever. Now the government will literally have control over a social media platform. I mean, the very thing that these people were, oh, this is crazy in Twitter files, right? To an extreme level, this is about to happen, and they don't care. They're okay with it. Bunch of unqualified DEI people that are going to go through and have high levels of authority and have less checks than I did. When I joined the military, they did an FBI investigation and they went all the way to my childhood. I actually got disqualified from having a top secret clearance, I think, because of, junior high school, I was acting up and my father took me to counseling or something. I mean, it's trivial. Not like I got into a violent fight or something, or I was committed or diagnosed with, no, just that alone. And they looked at it as a risk. But to qualify, I think I was actually applying to Space Command, I think, which ironically, most Trump supporters think that Trump created, but yet I applied to go into that command back in 1998. Yes, Space Command was around in 1998. Trump did not create Space Command. Anyway, so the stakes were very high. This is a very sort of risky type of position. So the standards were extremely high. The idea that Donald Trump would be putting people to really high levels of authority and have less checks than I did. That's what I mean when I say that Donald Trump is a major national security threat. But regardless of whatever you think, again, the idea that Tulsi Gabbard accusing her of being a Russian asset is ridiculous because she's in the military. That's absurd. That is absurd. Unfortunately, we have some very bad actors in the military, just like we do in law enforcement and everywhere else. We in the military are humans. Some of us are very good people, and some of us are very bad people. And not all of us who are the bad ones get caught and eliminated. And those that do get caught and eliminated, unfortunately, many of them get caught after the damage is done. This is the Debate Me channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well. To all the conservatives that are laughing and talking about liberal tears, and keep doing it, because you're just showing the world that you're not patriots. You're unserious actors. You're just a bunch of tribalist, over emotional tribalists that are being manipulated by the elites, the very elites that you like to fearmonger about. They have captured you. You're supporting billionaires taking over our government, DEI hires. You are supporting the very breaking of America, whether you realize it or not. So keep laughing, because even if you believe what you believe, you have to, or believe what you claim to believe, you have to recognize that I can be wrong, you can be wrong, anybody can be wrong. So to be talking about matters that are so serious, that if you're wrong, the consequence is so severe, and then you're laughing. Let me put it this way. Even if I believe what you believe, I thought Trump's a great guy and all this stuff is hyperbolic or whatever, I wouldn't be online laughing about liberal tears.
Listen, man, the bottom line is that the stakes are very, very high here. The consequences of being wrong are severe. So even if you believe Trump is a good guy and the left is wrong, there's nothing funny about this, nothing entertaining about this. I think the correct mood for anyone who is a true patriot is somber. Even if you believe that you're on the right side and Trump is on the right side and the Democrats are on the wrong side, a true patriot will be somber in this moment, because just like how I could be wrong, so can you. And again, the consequences of being wrong, getting it wrong in this moment, are massive.